Hey there. It's Monday, October 1st, and I'm doing a quick update at the beginning of this week. And I think I might be doing this for a while, just answering some mail and commenting on some comments that have come on my blog and that people have emailed me privately or maybe on Facebook and different sort of things that people have been mirroring back to me that I don't always get to respond to because I'm busy. We're all busy, and my online time sometimes is sort of focused on things, and I get kind of busy, so I don't get to respond to email and or always. But it's easier for me to often just make a video, so I can just sort of speak to it in large chunks. So I'm going to try to do this, see how it goes. Well, first of all, here on this week, one of the things, I do have a webcast or a web class this week where I talk about the 2012 election, Obama and Romney, and talk about their charts, and then the 2012 election. You'll really like that. Go ahead and just sign up for it and register it. Even if you can't make it in real time, one of the dates or one of the times, you can get a replay. So you'll really like that, I'm sure. I had a lot of mail last week. I had 3 or 4 letters that came in about the articles that I made and the videos that I made where I talked about Obama's chart and Romney's charts. And anytime I talk about politics, people get a little issues come up. People start to get upset at me because they think I'm playing favorites or I'm never being fair or I'm not honoring their guy or something. I do my best. I try to read the charts honestly, just like I did, just like I'm doing in my election webinar. But I appreciate that you have your opinions. And someone wrote in and said, "You must be a Republican, or else why would you analyze Romney's chart and then focus on Clinton while calling that an Obama chart analysis?" So someone didn't think I was being fair because they saw that in the Obama article I said Clinton overshadows Obama, ? Which was actually a direct quote from CNN and from a news source. This was to talk about Obama being a bit overshadowed right now when, of course, 4 years ago he was the golden boy. So the article or the piece and the post and the video was about Obama. Just because the headline was about Clinton overshadows Obama doesn't mean it was about Clinton. So I did give equal time to both candidates. And I'm not a Republican. And so, you could have looked at what I did rather than just look at the title of the articles. One was about Romney, one was about Obama. And the one about Obama was about talking as to how he's in Saturn Dasha now, which is more about humility and not this big Jupiter thing which he was in before. So next time, go and look at what I actually did rather than just fire off an email that's kind of reacting to something that you didn't look at. So if you'd have looked at it, you'd have seen it was about Obama, and it was quite favorable. So someone else said, "I'm not of a political mind, but it seems to me if you want to keep the friends you have made, it would be advantageous for you to remain neutral when making comparisons. You point out in your words less than kind things. What does this have to do with the stars? It makes more sense if you stick to the stars and let humans make up their own mind. We are going for world peace and harmony with all." Okay, well, thanks for your opinion. And I am not worried about keeping friends, frankly. Not that I'm trying to repel anyone, but I don't do anything really because I'm trying to make friends. I'm actually, I'm motivated by my sense of integrity, my own sense of personal integrity, and what I think is right and what I think is helpful. And I realize, as I said at the beginning, when I talk about politics, people see it very much through their filter. And your filter is really that, your first part I get, then you said, your main thing is, what does this have to do with the stars? It makes more sense if you stick to the stars and let humans make up their own mind. We're going for world peace and harmony with all. Okay, that's your real frame, is you don't think I should even be talking about it at all. This is what I'm getting, especially when you said it would be more advantageous if you remain neutral, you point out things that are less than kind. that may be true. Maybe I am pointing out things that are less than kind. I don't really care. I'm not trying to be kind necessarily. I don't think I'm being unkind, which is kind of the implication. I'm being what I call honest, at least honest as I see it. If people really take issue with what I'm saying astrologically about these public figures, they're free to say something. You're really not. You're just opposed to the principle of the thing, which is fine. You have the right to be opposed to the principle and think that I should not talk about things that are unkind. And in your opinion, what do the stars have to do with it anyway? Well, you know, I'm an astrologer, so the stars have everything to do with it. That's what I do. I'm not out to try and make astrology into some kind of New Age fairy dust thing, which honestly, your quote reeks of that. You say, we're out for world peace and harmony with all. Who says that being honest about politicians isn't promoting world peace and harmony for all? So that's really your frame of reference. And, you know, I'm an honest person. And so, you know, to answer what I hear as your point of view, you know, to be honest, is that astrology is not just this, you know, New Age excuse to, like, as I say, kind of spread, you know, happy dust all over the place. That's not what it is. It's the most ancient system of divination there is, and it shows light and dark. It shows actual reality. And, you know, for you to say it makes more sense if you stick to the stars and let humans make up their own mind, humans come from the stars. What do you think astrology is about? It's about humans and what humans do. The reason we study ancient cultures is because, at least the ancient culture of India, is because they knew astrology. So, you know, I get what you're saying, and I appreciate that you took the time to write. And, you know, you may rethink whether or not you want to follow what I do. Honestly, I did go back and look and see that you've been on my list and following my stuff for several years, so I would think that you knew my style a little bit better by now, so it kind of surprises me that you would write that. Although I haven't had any personal interactions with you, I don't think you've ever purchased any products or whatever. You just like to get my take. And you're free to keep getting my take as well, but you have to know that my take is that astrology is an authentic, you know, a live practice and science that includes politics and all kinds of things, and sometimes, you know, it may be things that aren't just in your mind promoting world peace and harmony with all. You seem to think that if I point out less than kind things, as you interpret it, that it's not in keeping with world peace and harmony with all. So I can't say any more than that, except I'm doing the work that speaks to me, and I certainly hope that in the process I make a lot of friends who like it, but if they don't, you know, they can leave if it's not speaking to them. And, you know, I appreciate you voicing your opinion. And then someone else said, Haribol Sadashiva, in regards to comparing Romney and Obama, I think that all astrologers would do well to remember that Obama's so-called birth certificate is still considered suspect by many forensic scientists. So to me, I would shy away from comparing the two. Okay, you should do that. You should shy away from comparing the two because, in your opinion, it's his birth certificate is still considered suspect by many forensic scientists. I don't happen to share that opinion. I think it's pretty legitimate, and so I guess we'll just agree to disagree with that. I think, you know, your tone is a bit assumptive and a bit lecturing when you say, I think all astrologers would do well to remember that Obama's birth certificate, you know, I've looked into it also, and I think a lot of astrologers have, and, you know, I think most astrologers that I know, they kind of accept it. It was on an actual birth certificate that has an actual seal, and it seems like it's pretty legit. So, anyway, I appreciate your point of view, but I'll stick with the birth certificate. It seems to make sense, especially when you consider, and like I say, I talk about this in my web class this week, that it's uncanny how his dashas play out exactly how you would expect them to for someone who is elected president of the United States. I mean, we do have events that we can test. I mean, we're not just shooting in the dark. I have looked at the time and looked at his dashas and looked at events in his life. It's a pretty good chart. It works pretty well, especially considering it just went into Saturn dasha in July. And right as his dasha is shifting, he has the potential to be president again. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable with it. But thanks for writing anyway. So there's also quite a few comments from my blog, and particularly on the full moon in Pisces post. You know, I want to thank everyone. First of all, that post has like almost 600 comments. Actually, excuse me, it has more than, not comments, but almost 800 Facebook shares. So I really appreciate all that activity and interest. So a few of the comments from that. Nilima Parikh said, very, very nice. Enjoyed listening. Thanks so much. You're welcome. Leona Simon says, one second, says, wow, Sam, you consistently amaze me. I couldn't believe when you used the phrase trying to push the river, as it is exactly how I've come to view the last few years of my life. Just recently I realized that I needed to make a decision, and I made it, and just this week began looking at what needs to be done for me to succeed in moving forward with the work that is, I believe, my purpose. Thanks so much for the confirmation and for the heads up about Leo's current position. Hopefully I'll be able to tame the me lion now that I know it's going to roar. Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. That's good. Then it says, and then Christina Hemming says, Sam, thank you. Although I love the music in the background, obviously it's distracting and competes with your voice. Okay, thanks for your opinion on that. Heather Lowe says, I see how this resonates. Thank you for the valuable insights. You're certainly welcome. Luna Lakshmi Priya says, hi Sam, I always look for your video on the upcoming events. It completes my cosmic learning. I don't always post a response. It's a reflection many times of what might be or how it can direct my week. Also, in the past, you've posted extreme things that are, to me, not the best meditations, whether real or not real. What my guru has said is that the Lord is in control. Even the mystic planets are under Shiva Shakti's control, Para Brahma, versus the fighting planets that still follow the Lord. Ultimately, I love to hear the trends of the week and reflect on what is happening, but then recognize that surrender means letting God, Jah, Allah, have His, her. The propitiating mantras, sadhana, and prayers help us alleviate our suffering from these mystic planets. Hence, another term for karma yoga. Doing work for alleviating suffering of one's good and bad past actions. Jai Ma. Well, Luna, thanks for sharing your opinion about that. It's not at all how I practice, and it's always interesting to me to hear how people kind of filter what I say through their own reality and study. You know, the thing is that this is pretty common when people don't really study astrology that, very seriously, and they sort of have learned a little bit about it, and they're mostly devotees of, different gurus and whatnot, because gurus speak to the masses and they try to help people. A Satguru, including my guru, Amma, or whatever, they speak to the masses, and they see astrology, and they see it as being helpful for people to understand their karmas and what things can be coming up. But really, at a deeper level, I think it can even be dangerous on some level to approach it the way I hear you implying that, it's kind of like what people do is, instead of actually seeing astrology as an integral part of their process, not just something to help them make sense of some outer thing, and then when it's tough, then I go pray to my guru to overcome the problem of the grahas, which is basically what you're saying, that and I get why you say it, because a lot of astrologers say that. This is what astrologers say. Well, it's all karma anyway, so you just got to pray to your guru, and they'll take away the problem, or they'll help you overcome the suffering of the planet. And I think this is really wrong, frankly. And I think what's really happening, and I think this is why a lot of spiritual people tend to get into a thing that's called spiritual bypassing, where astrology is a way to identify the difficulty, and then the guru is the way to kind of bypass the difficulty, try to rise above it, okay, it's not going to get me because I got my guru. This is what we need. I mean, we need to have guru's grace to help us with things, but we just find ways to avoid what's uncomfortable to us, because in truth, all the planets are divine energies. The only reason we have these attractions and aversions is because we live through our emotions. We live through our emotional experiences. And the cruel planets are simply ones that are more emotionally intense. That's all they are. And I talk about the planets as emotional forces a lot because that's where we live. What this means to say is that the gentle planets are the ones that feel better. Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, they feel better to us. The intense planets don't feel so good. Mars, Saturn, even the Sun, and the nodes, all of them are divine forces. They're all good. None of them are bad. None of them are out to punish us. They're all divine forces. It's just certain ones don't feel so good. And because we live through our emotions, we have these attractions and aversions. And then when the bad ones come, it's like, okay, now it's time to pray to my guru to overcome this. When in fact, what I think is proper is we pray to the guru to help us deal with this and see the beauty and love and joy in it. Rather than praying to the guru to make the bad Saturn stuff stop, we should be praying to the guru, in my opinion, to have us be able to just step into the Saturn stuff in full glory, without all this aversion to it, in full maturity, with full commitment, with full honor and humility and grace. That's just as possible. Instead, we tend to pray to the guru and then forget the astrology, instead of praying to the guru to get more insight into Saturn issues, which is what we need to do because it's not going away. I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but it ain't going away. It's your karma, and it can't go away. It's you. The grahas are what form you. They're the different parts of who you are. And difficult planetary cycles are difficult parts of you. I'm not just saying you, as in the person who wrote this, but this is a common perception, and I really thank Luna for writing it, because this is what is commonly thought of, is that, thank God we have the gurus to help us overcome the astrology. It's really not the way it is, because the astrology cycles are going to continue. Guru's grace helps us deal with it, not overcome it. Deal with it. Astrology is still integral in the process if someone understands it that way. It's there. It's your karma and the karmic truth of it all. They're all forces of intelligence, love, wisdom. They're all different moods of the Divine Mother, which is how I put it as someone who is a devotee of the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother, the real mother who would never harm the child. So we have these attractions and aversions based on the planets. Oh, the gentle ones I like. Oh, the tense ones, oh, I don't like that so much. It's just like the person said earlier that, oh, you're talking about something that is not so nice. And, we're all about peace and love and harmony. Don't say anything unpleasant. I don't see it as unpleasant. This is my honest frame. I talk about it honestly, and I try to bring dignity to it as much as I can, because that's how I actually see it. I don't see it as bad. And I don't see the good ones as being so good either. They're okay, but we can get really messed up on them, and usually what happens, I'll give you a little secret, usually it's the cruel planets that have to get us out of the problem created by the gentle planets. Think about this one. It's usually Mars, Saturn, and the Sun that have to get in there and make us tough again after we've gotten in all kind of trouble because of the nice ones, mainly Venus and the Moon. The Venus and the Moon makes us so like, that we just create all kinds of problems that those tough planets have to get us out of. So I'll leave it at that. But it's an interesting comment, and I appreciate you voicing it. And I know it's things that a lot of people think, and it's a very common frame in astrology. I mean, astrologers say it all the time. Just pray to the guru to make it all better. But what you're making better is still astrological. You're still getting the karmas of that planet. If it's painful, it's because it's not very developed in you. And you need to develop it. And through Guru's grace, it can help you develop it and approach it with equanimity, and approach it with love, and approach it with the mindset of integrating it, not avoiding it. Because we get very good at compartmentalizing and avoiding our problems as we get older, especially once we start to gather things like gurus and teachings. Because then it's like, oh, this unpleasant thing is coming. Oops, time to call the guru and run away from that. We ain't putting it off. I'm saying we're only putting it off if we don't face it. And we all do it. We all avoid things that feel, uh-oh, I don't want this. A great master goes into everything. They're like, here's what it is. I'm going to walk right into it. And then Guru's grace is really there, walking in the fire of the full-on planet in its full state. Rima says, this is just to tell you your work is brilliant. Well, thank you. No, I truly am grateful to hear every word you say. Your explanation of Vedic concepts is absolutely the best. Thank you very much for that, Rima. That's very kind of you. Carolyn Mills says, good to hear about the Mars transits happening in the next 4 months, as this energy always helps for getting things done with Sagittarius and Capricorn especially. Yes, very, very true. We have great Mars transits coming. As for the Mars conjunct Rahu and Scorpio, I wonder what tricks are up the sleeves for the RNC super PACs and their subcontractors to cheat this election. Although I believe we will have still have our current president, this energy would be an impetus for dirty deeds on their desire to win at all costs. Many thanks for details of what is happening. Mars, there's no question that Mars, Mercury retrograde, Rahu, and Scorpio is a potentially underhanded transit. So there's a potential for, underhanded trickery and dastardly deeds on election day, especially because Mercury turns retrograde around 6 p.m. No, around 4 p.m. Pacific time on election day. Watch my webinar to find out what I really think. Savitri Vidya says, so helpful and feeling exuberance of full moon building up. Happy Harvest Moon, everyone. Thank you, Savitri Vidya. Kate Donovan says, awesome. You're always so helpful and wise. Thank you. Sudevi Nadia Samanich says, excellent. Thank you for clarifying all these effects I've been experiencing. My moon is in Uttara Bhadrapada, so I'm feeling that this full moon is a culmination of many things that have been developing lately. Just like you said, awesome insight. I'm so grateful for your updates. Jai Sadashivaji. Thank you very much, Sudevi. Jean-Pierre Radu O'Callaghan. This is the French the French-Irish devotee, I guess. This a lot of exclamation points and laughing out louds in this one that says, interesting, exclamation point. My Vedic Sun, Jupiter, Saturn, possibly Pluto are in Virgo, exclamation point. Could be a lot of interesting oppositions there, exclamation point, LOL, exclamation point. My natal Venus is in Leo and my natal Mars is in Scorpio, exclamation point, exclamation point. LOL, exclamation point, LOL, exclamation point. Lots of heating up there too, exclamation point. Ha ha ha, exclamation point, exclamation point. Interesting to read that, exclamation point. And then many thank yous, Sudevi, exclamation point, Radha Krishna, Chaitanya, on and on. Well, Jean-Pierre Radu O'Callaghan, thanks for writing, exclamation point, LOL. Darlene Hessinger, brilliant and so helpful, as always. Thank you very much for that and for your comment, Darlene. Hollis Wood says, thanks, Sam. I'm right in line with following up on all the details of my personal finances that I've put on the back burner, so to speak, and felt the pull this week to get it all completed and following through. You always amaze me with your knowledge. You continue to share. Thank you, and thank you. Okay, there was 3 of them. Namaste, Holly. Well, thank you, Holly. I appreciate that. Janine Ligon says, Namaste, Sam. I have Venus and Rahu conjoined in Pisces in the 8th house, and I just found that my Aruda Lagna is under this influence in the 5th house. Nakshatra, which rules this configuration, is Uttar Bhadrapada. It is personally significant for me that this week a series of synchronicities took place which have really taken my consciousness down that very deep area in my being and shed a lot of light as to why and how certain events took place and what impact they had as I become a young woman all the way now into my early 60s. Cool. This reinforces the fact that this is all set into motion at the moment when we take possession of this body through our ascendant, and how it is spiritual intelligent design for us to work out our karmas and grow towards who we truly are, one with Godhead. No matter what we may call that ultimate state of beingness, it is the same throughout, where the Jiva Atman realizes its true nature in relationship with the Paramatman as lover and beloved. This realization is not conceptual but experiential, and it happens when it happens. Paramahansa Ramakrishna said a long time ago that when the nut is green, no amount of prying will set it loose. However, once the nut is mature, the slightest tap will do. So this is not a race to reach a goal as quickly as possible. It is a maturing process, and like all good things, it takes time. Saturn, Haribo, love to all, Janine. Awesome. Great post. And great to hear those insights and to see your progress as a student in my certification program. You're doing great and bringing a lot of that wisdom into Vedic astrology. I'm sure you'll be helping others with as an astrologer real soon. Noemi Medola from Italy says, thank you, Sam. It is always so accurate and useful what you say. Yes, I bet it's going to be an inspiring and interesting weekend, and about Saturn and Libra, it is really good for me at the moment, concentrating on important things and letting go of what is not needed anymore. Namah Shivaya, great. And Noemi is also doing really amazing in her astrology studies, so that's cool. Julia said, funny, I noticed the kids this morning, I was walking to the bus, though they were swimming in water. They seemed blissed out and unfocused, and had a sense it was Pisces moon influence. I feel relaxed, peaceful, content, and happy. And this is for Julia commenting on the Pisces moon phenomena. And I also had some comments on a Facebook post that I did, quite a few. I'm not going to read all of them because it got to be about 50 posts when I'm talking about the different zodiac signs, and it felt very much like a Pisces rather than an Aries full moon this past weekend, and quite a few people, most agreed with that, although a couple Western astrologers and Western astrology students also pointed out that things were shifting for them, and they felt the energy of Aries. Shell Hawkins said, my son's soccer coach announced today that he's leaving the team to take coaching job in Japan. He leaves in 2 weeks on the new moon. He said it was an offer that he couldn't refuse, and normally he would wait to finish out the season, but he had to take it or leave it now. Seems very Aries, Pluto square Uranus to me. This is Shell Hawkins on Facebook saying that about the way that the full moon felt like an Aries full moon to her, not a Pisces full moon. And she said another friend announced that he has to quit mid-September at school to go to boot camp because he was told if he didn't go now, the job he promised would not be there either. Well, would not be there later. So, to the Western astrologers, or those who study, it felt very much like Aries to them. And we had a bit of a discussion about that. And another Western astrologer pointed out some of the unrest in the world as being, some of the things in Madrid and Portugal, the Middle East, as also having a quality of the Aries full moon. You know, my feeling was, and actually a lot of the talk, I mean, I can see the Aries quality to some extent, but one of the things that I've noticed, this is just my personal observation, is with a lot of importance being placed on things like a Pluto-Uranus square, for instance, which is a placement that's supposed to bring a lot of volatility. Those things move slowly, and the moon going there, I thought, or I've noticed, can have a tendency to bring a softening influence. So even though there was some intensity, it didn't create explosiveness. This is just maybe my totally uneducated Western astrological perspective, but I saw this also last year when the whole cardinal cross thing happened, and they had an eclipse right on the cardinal cross. Literally the same place last year, where there was an eclipse that happened on the point where these energies crossed. And in Vedic astrology, it was Pisces. In Western astrology, it was Aries. And I made a prediction at the time. This was at a time when the Gulf oil crisis was going crazy. You remember that geyser that was spewing oil in the Gulf in 2010, rather. Not last year, 2010. And this was leading up to the cardinal cross, which the Western astrologers have been talking about for years. And there was a lot of predictions that at that eclipse on the cardinal cross, the thing in the Gulf was going to get much worse. And I predicted it was going to get much better. And in fact, it got much better. It looked very much like Pisces, and it was very auspicious. And that proved to be correct. This is just one example. And I'm not saying I'm right or that it's always right, but what I said at the time is also quite similar. What I'm saying now is a lot of the things with the cardinal cross were based on the outer planets, based on Uranus. I think it was Saturn-Uranus opposition, and then Pluto squares, and the moon. I was saying at the time that the moon perhaps brought more of a healing energy to it, because you have all these outer planets which are invisible, and the moon is so big and bright that relatively speaking, it could bring more peace, potentially. So these are a few things that have been discussed in the last week in my blogs and online. The last thing is there was definitely some comments about my upcoming retreat in Mexico, in Tulum, Mexico, that people were asking where do they fly, and you fly into Cancun if you're interested in coming to that, which should be fantastic. Coming to Cancun coming to Tulum, Mexico on the eclipse that's happening in early November will be a great thing to do, because it's going to be a really intense eclipse with Venus debilitated, Sun debilitated, Luna. You might want to stop watching, because it might be intense and not something that's going to help your meditations. But it could be an intense eclipse because we have a couple debilitated planets, Mercury retrograde. It doesn't mean the world's coming to an end. It never means that. And again, I never mean it means that. But these are times when our worldly life can definitely get somewhat challenging. And this is literally like 6 weeks before the end of the Mayan calendar. So this is a huge, huge time of transition. And on the sacred land of the Mayan people, what better place to pass this auspicious time? We're even going to take a trip to the Mayan ruins. We're going to have 16 hours of awesome classes on the nodes. It's a great romantic getaway as well for you and your partner. Even if your partner's not into astrology, you can come to the classes. It's only 4 hours of classes a day, which is a substantial amount, but the rest of the time you can relax in the healing beaches, the wonderful white sands of Tulum, Mexico, the beautiful tropical water, and you can take a trip to Mayan country. You'll have an amazing time. And this time is meant for retreat. That's what eclipses are for. They're meant for retreat. So check this out. You really want to. You'll be glad you did this if you or even thinking about it. If you make these plans, you'll be glad you did it by the time it comes. This is why I'm going. So I decided, to turn it into a retreat and a sort of teaching trip as well. So we already got, quite a few people there, so it's running out. So you want to take advantage of it. You want to take it, you want to do it here soon. But, you'll have a great time if you come. So anyway, I'm going to try to do this each week, sort of catch you up on what's going on with the blogs and the comments and the stuff like that. And, make sure to come to my web class this week on the 2012 election, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can pick any of 3 times. No excuse not to come to it. You're going to really like it. You'll see my predictions. You'll see why I say what I say. And you'll have just a great time at it.